Now, what I wanted to do is basically, and you got it going, yes?
Yes.
Okay, today, as soon as I'm done here, probably about an hour from now, I'll start uploading the videos in YouTube, okay? I'll create links in each of your classes, so when you go to links, it'll probably be a series of 4 or 5 videos on there so you can watch these, okay? So it'll be there really fast. Obviously, the Monday, Wednesday class has got the exam tomorrow. Everybody else is Thursday. So the Monday, Wednesday class is a little, not as much material, but they don't have as much time with the video. So I guess it kind of balances out. For this today, I'll start with the terms. Couple of things before we get into terms. Number one, don't be the first person to turn in your exam. The first person that turns it in, and don't sit there with it, but the first person that turns it in, especially if it's like 40 minutes, they always fail. So don't do that. And if somebody does get up at the 40-minute mark and turn it, don't laugh at them. Because really, it is that bad. Second thing, there's going to be, on all of your exams, 40 multiple choices. Your names are in all of these questions. I've got everybody in there once. Several of you I've gotten in there multiple times. Several of you, I call you by what you eat. You know, this kind of a thing. So with this in mind, as you go through this, you're going to notice this. There's a lot of humor in these exams. They're tricky, though. So read through the questions. I'm going to give you more material than you need. You're going to need to kind of sift through what's relevant. And once you do that, this should actually apply very, very easily to what it is that you need to answer, okay? Having said this, 40 multiple choices. 7 out of 12 or 7 out of 13 short answers, 115-point exam. I'm going to have a spillover room tomorrow from 2 to 3:15, so if you need a little bit of extra time, I'll have that for you. On Thursday, the 12:30 to 1:45 folks can spill over into my 2 to 4:25, but you've got to come over with me, and I can't really let you leave, you know? So with that in mind, we'll just all come over if you need extra time, and you can take, they're in there 2.5 hours, you should have plenty of time. The 2 to 4:25 people, 2.5 hours should be enough. Should be enough. If you need a little bit longer, we'll work through that as well. And then the night class, y'all, I'm not even going to talk about y'all. We don't need to put what we're doing on the video. So with this in mind, as you go through this, make sure that you answer the short answers as clearly as possible and be specific, and that's the trick on this. Now, as you look at the terms, let's go chapter by chapter on this. Let's just start with chapter 1. Is there anything in chapter 1 that you got questions about? Anybody at all? Go ahead.
That 111.
111 is actually 113. Does anybody remember what 11? Yeah, go ahead, vegetarian.
How many peaceful elections we've had?
How many peaceful midterm and presidential elections that we've had in American history? I saw your hand, Becca. Go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing.
Okay, anybody else? Questions from, yes, Luhan.
What is recall again?
Recall. Does anybody remember what recall was? Yeah, go ahead, Edwin.
Procedure where citizens can remove, procedures whereby citizens can remove and replace a public official before the term is ended.
Yeah, that's right. Now, how does it work exactly? Does anybody know how it works? Go ahead, Patrick.
You have a ballot whether you want to remove a government official, yea or nay, and then you have who you like to replace them with?
Yeah. Basically, as you look at this, well, the citizens are gonna do this. This is an example of direct democracy, right? So what happens is that you're gonna, I guess, propose, if you will, to have a recall election to remove somebody from office. You get the recommended percentage of signatures. You turn this into the Board of Elections. Once they confirm that these are registered voters, then you have a recall election. There's 2 questions that are on the recall ballot. Go ahead, Patrick. What are they? Okay, what are the 2 questions, anybody, that are on the recall ballot?
What are whether you want them to remain in office or be...
Okay, the first question is, do you want candidate X, person X, governor, whatever it is, do you want this person recalled or removed from office? If you say no, you're done, they're staying. If you say yes, what's the second question?
Who do you want to replace?
Who do you want to replace them? And if you remember, what was the ballot example that I'd given you? California with Schwarzenegger. And if you remember on there, do you remember some of the people that were in that recall election?
Gary Coleman.
Gary Coleman was one. There was Angeline, the exotic dancer, Mary Carey, the porn star, Larry Flint of Hustler magazine, Richard Simmons, who may or may not have been the exercise guy. Hugh Hefner was not on there. Yeah, don't, yeah, be careful, you're on video. So, but anyway, yeah, with this in mind, if you get so basically you got to determine if you want the person recalled. She just put you on video too. The second question is that you've got to pick somebody, and it's difficult because there are so many candidates sometimes, but it's an example of direct democracy. Any others up here?
Who?
Who? Okay, I got yelled at at 12:30 today, and she's not here, the one that did yell at me. But the who question is actually dealing with the Declaration of Independence. And if you remember on this, there were 3 who's and a what? Who were the 3 who's regarding the Declaration of Independence? What's that now?
John Locke.
John Locke?
And the guy who wrote the Constitution, is that what you want to know?
No, we're talking about the Declaration of Independence. Who wrote it? Thomas Jefferson is actually the person that's given credit for having written it. If you want to get into the pale, male, and stale, or old, wealthy white guys, that's fine. But Jefferson is the primary person that's considered to have written it, the father of the Declaration. Who wrote it? Who was it written about?
The king.
Written about the king. Why do you say that? What did it do regarding the king?
It separated like the freedom from the, like it was saying like how. Okay, I don't know.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Didn't it blame the king?
Yeah, it was a list of grievances. It blamed the king for everything. It was a list of grievances, as you recall, of all of the things that the king had done wrong. So who wrote it, Jefferson? Who was it written about the king? Who was it written for? Go ahead, Keish. The French. It was written for potential allies. What was the actual purpose of the Declaration of Independence?
Revolution. Is it?
Revolution. There's another way of saying it. A better way of saying it. Anybody? What was the purpose? It was a legal justification for separation from Britain. It was a legal justification for separation from Britain. Yes?
Explain direct democracy.
What's direct democracy? Not everybody. Go ahead,
It's when
Zach.
the people vote.
When the people vote. What do you mean when the people vote?
Like the other democracy is when just the federal government votes on stuff.
Yeah.
Am I right? Or
You were closer with what you had first started with. Go ahead.
It's when the people vote for every decision.
The people vote on everything is really where you had kind of gone on this. If you remember, the two kinds were direct and representative. Direct democracy is where the people vote on everything. And I had asked y'all the question in class, what do you know about hog farming? What do you know about school lunches? What do you know about road construction? And then people are like, well, I really don't know about any of those things. So should we actually be voting on everything? Representative democracy is when you vote for somebody that is going to make decisions for you. And that's the difference. And the other piece of this, recall and initiative and referendum were examples of direct democracy because people were ultimately using, they weren't using the legislature to get laws passed or to get people removed from office. They were really doing it on their own. Yeah, go ahead, Edwin.
Since we're talking about chapter 1, does this only regard to terms? Or can I ask a question about chapter 1, the study questions?
Go ahead, ask a question.
What is Polter,
Oh yeah, that one. Does anybody know what that is? Go ahead, Elizabeth.
It's the people's disenchantment with politics.
Yeah, it's the people's disenchantment. Do you have a page number on that?
No, I go.
No? Oh, you Googled it. The idea from the chapter with this politic Verdrossenheit is the idea that people are becoming more and more separated from the government. So it's disenchantment, it's separation is what it is. And when you think about it, there's an argument out there that if we're not voting, we're kind of more separated, we're disenchanted, we're protesting more, we're not really in the system, but we're acting on the system outside of it kind of thing. That's what that politic Verdrossenheit is, and it's a German word.
Page 6.
Yeah. What's that?
Page 6.
Page 6. Do you want to read it off? Because I think it might even have it in the sentence tree, Steve.
Oh.
Yes. This is question number 4 from chapter 1.
I was trying to write it out.
Yeah, just let's look at question 4 because it's got like 27 letters in it.
No, I mean like, what is it? What is it?
Go ahead, read it out.
Both Europe and America seem to have experienced a flight from politics, or what the Germans called a weakness about its debates, disbelief about its claims, skepticism about its results, cynicism about its practitioners.
So basically, you have a divide from government, a departure from government. You don't trust it anymore, and you're moving away from it. a separation from the system. Go ahead, other questions? Any other terms from chapter 1? Go ahead, Carlos.
What's one below 111?
Initiative. Do y'all remember what initiative was? Another example of direct democracy. Go ahead, Edwin.
Procedures that enable citizens to place proposals for laws and amendments directly on the ballot.
I had asked y'all questions about if you didn't, how a law typically passes. Where do you go? And the legislature is the example. And then I'd asked you if there was a way that you could pass a law without the legislature, and that's where initiative comes in. You draft a proposal, you collect a percentage of eligible voters' signatures, you turn that into the Board of Elections, and then once you do this, at that point it becomes a yes or no question on the ballot. If a majority of the people say yes, then it becomes law without the legislature and there's nothing they can do about it. If a majority of the people say no, it's killed. And I think I had mentioned in the classes that one of the things we tried to do in Carolina was to make it required to post the 10 Commandments on the walls of public buildings, specifically because it was illegal and we wanted to cause trouble. That's what we did. Any others from chapter 1? As you look at the articles, and I don't want you to forget them, we have the Catholic school teacher article. Y'all remember the Catholic school teacher article, yes?
Yeah.
What's the story behind the Catholic school teacher article? Go ahead, Catholic Anna.
Well, okay, so it was the school, the Catholic school teacher that got pregnant.
Yes.
And
You remember her name?
We gotta remember.
Michelle McCusker was her name. 28, 26, but she's basically a fairly young Catholic school teacher, math teacher, in fact, but the article doesn't say that. Go ahead, tell me more, Catholic Anna.
And so apparently she got fired because the principal or whatever said it was a bad example for the kids and that she had signed a contract.
What was a bad example for the kids?
That she was pregnant outside of wedlock.
Michelle McCusker got pregnant out of wedlock. Did she try and hide it? She went to the principal fairly soon in the process and basically said, I want to raise the child. I know the rules, but I want to raise the child. You know, let me do this. Did the principal allow her? No. Initially, it sounded like it might be okay, but eventually the principal fired her. This is where the controversy comes in. What's the controversy? Go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, the controversy is it's outside of Catholic doctrine, but do we have to know names and stuff like that?
Name wouldn't hurt in this one, but not necessarily in all of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Norman.
Are we supposed to like match the names? Are you going to give us?
No, there's no matching, Norman. No, there's no matching. There's no matching. And to be honest with you, some of them we dealt with names. It would be more impressive if you know them. Let's put it that way. Okay, so what was the controversy with this? Go ahead, Elmer.
It was the fact that she couldn't hide it by choice versus a male that could hide it.
Okay, that's part of it. Go ahead. No. Go ahead, Dristy.
Did she sue the school for sexual discrimination?
Yes, she did. Okay, why did the school fire her? What was the exact word? Go ahead.
She signed a contract.
Yeah, she signed the contract, and what was the problem? What did she violate in that contract?
She had to follow the Catholic faith.
Core teachings of the Catholic faith. Getting no sex before marriage, for example, would be one of these, although it doesn't specifically say that. So she got pregnant, she wasn't married, she was fired for this. What was her argument?
If a guy was to do the same thing.
Even before we get to that, what was her argument?
She was a woman. She was getting discriminated against because she was a woman.
She was discriminated. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was reading my notes. And
Okay, so the school's argument was it was a contract clause, and actually Elmer and Carlos, if we tie this all together with yours, basically if a man did something like this, he's not going to get caught, he's not going to get punished, but if a woman does, she's going to show and she's going to get punished and fired. Basically what they're saying in this. So she's arguing discrimination. The school was arguing contract. The school is actually arguing too, this doesn't set a good example, and the parents that are sending their kids there for Catholic values, guess what? They are not going to send their kids there if this kind of thing is going on. So she sued for discrimination. Did she win? No, the termination held. Why? Go ahead, Joselle.
Because they claim that a woman and a man can't have sex, and that she could have prevented the pregnancy because men don't show.
A woman and a man can have sex? Is that what you said?
They say that they could have sex without wedlock, and they both wouldn't know, but the fact that she let herself get pregnant.
The idea on this is that a man can do this out of wedlock and not get pregnant, not show obviously, but a lot of women can do the same thing as well. It just so happens that she got pregnant. So they're saying that this was not actually discrimination. They're also saying that they respected the contract that she signed and she broke that contract. There's just no debate.